going to turn this on here. Does that sound okay? Does that sound okay? All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming out to visit with us for program coordinator information. So you all are here for that, and appreciate you all taking time on a Friday morning to come and hear what we have to say. Basically, the program today will go for about an hour, and then we're going to stick around for another hour. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. I'm Dr. Doug Masterson. I'm the Senior Associate Provost for Institutional Success. I have to remember that it was changed from effectiveness to success about a year ago. And so I'm in this building up on the 5th floor, and I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves as well.
The microphone's really for me because my voice isn't carried. I'm Claire Villarreal. I'm an assessment coordinator in the Office of Institutional Effectiveness.
Good morning, everyone. My name is J.B. Emmerker, the data coordinator in the Office of Institutional Effectiveness.
We're going to pass the mic around quite a bit today. So we've got a quick little PowerPoint. And so, since the way that we're scheduling this today with questions at the end, let's kind of hold our questions until the end. I think that'll be the easiest way to deal with this, and we'll be happy to stick around as long as we need to answer any and all questions that you all may have about either your continuing role as a program coordinator or your new role as a program coordinator. Happy to help you figure it all out today. So, whoops, wrong one. There we go. Maybe. You gotta click on screen. There we go. There we go. All right. So today we're going to talk about why do we have program coordinators, because some of you may be wondering, why am I assigned to be a program coordinator? We're going to talk about what the program coordinator is responsible for, what it is that you need to do as program coordinator. And I will just say at the very beginning, you don't have to do everything. Okay, you are a coordinator. So just to keep that in mind throughout the whole talk. And then what should program coordinators be doing throughout the year? So program coordination is one of those things that you shouldn't wait till the very end to do all of the tasks that you have to do, whatever those may be, and we'll talk about those things as well. So I always like to start these types of things with why. And we can start with the why that a lot of people think, which is SAC COC or accreditation or whatever. But the reality is that we have a mission, a vision, and we have values at the institution. And those mission, vision, and values really do have to be supported by faculty. And so, as you notice in our mission statement, we can go through the whole thing, but we've highlighted some points with red underlined. So Southern Miss produces graduates who are ready for life, ready to succeed professionally, and as responsible citizens in a pluralistic society. How do we know that? How do we measure that? How do we assess that? How do we know we're achieving that part of our mission? That is one of the things that the program coordinators help us do. We also have a vision statement, and I'll just highlight in red here, in adding value to our students' experience, uniquely preparing them to be ready for life, right? So in adding value to our students' experience, who's responsible for that? Who makes sure that that is getting done, right? And so, again, program coordinators play a very vital role in all of these pieces that we connect to our mission and vision. And then we also have a list of values. You all know what these values are. One, I think, could argue that many values are being supported by program coordinators, but we think there are two in particular that really do lead to program coordinator support. Number 4, institutional governance that respects academic freedom and faculty inclusion. The faculty are in control of the curriculum, right? Faculty coordinators, program coordinators, play a very vital role in that particular value. And then number 7, an evolving curriculum that fosters lifelong curiosity, critical thinking, and prepares our graduates to be ready for life, right? An evolving curriculum. Who ensures that the curriculum is evolving? What's the faculty, right? But who actually takes on the role of making sure that that happens? That would be the program coordinator. And then we also have some strategic goals. So we've got a mission, vision, values, and then strategic goals, right? And so number 2, we think really does support or is supported by the role of program coordinator. And so that is to cultivate an academic culture of curricular innovation and a positive teaching learning environment. Again, very faculty centric. And so somebody has to lead that charge. Again, that is the program coordinators at this institution. So that's the why from the institutional perspective. We also have a why from an accreditation perspective. Okay, and so we have SAC-COC, which we just submitted our 10-year report for about what, 3 weeks ago now. Actually, we were a little early on that. I'm proud about that, by the way. And so we got ahead of that one. But 6.2C, which is a standard, it tells us that for each of its each of its educational programs, the institution assigns appropriate responsibility for program coordination for each of its programs. And each means each program that we have to list on our institutional summary form, which is every program as listed in the bulletin. So that's why you may be thinking, well, why is it that I've got all of these programs assigned to me? It's because there's a direct connection to the bulletin. We have to go, this page in the bulletin, here's who's coordinating. This page in the bulletin, here's who's coordinating. So we have to do that for our SAC-COC compliance. This information comes from 2 documents that really rule our office. One is the Principles of Accreditation, which is a nice thin little document. That's really all of SAC-COC. But when we get ready to write a report, we have to deal with this document, the resource manual. And so what you're seeing here in the rationale and notes comes from the resource manual. And so as we're making a report to SAC-COC, we go through that resource manual to make sure that we're checking off everything that we need to check off for compliance. And so in the rationale and notes for this particular standard, it definitely highlights that student learning is central to the institution's mission and educational degrees. The faculty has the responsibility for directing the learning enterprise, including overseeing and coordinating educational programs. Okay, so again, it's a very much so a faculty have the curriculum kind of standard here. And so I will also continue on here by just mentioning a couple other things that you'll hear come up in just a moment. And that is to assure that each contains essential curricular components, has appropriate content and pedagogy, and maintains discipline currency. Okay, so you're going to hear things that sound like that throughout the talk as well today. So, what is meant by institution assigns? We can't just say, we've got program coordinators, take our word for it. We actually have to show that we have actually assigned faculty to have that particular role. And so again, this comes from the resource manual. And so they put in quotes, the institution assigns appropriate responsibility. There is an expectation that persons responsible for overseeing the curricular content aspects of a program are qualified in fields appropriate to the curricular content. I'm a chemist by training. It would be perfectly appropriate for me to be a program coordinator in chemistry. And I have served in that role. I have served in that role before we called it that role. Okay. And so I was the undergraduate program coordinator back in the day. So I've done your job in the past. And so I know what you all have to go through. And so again, it's about ensuring the quality of our educational programs is the essence of this particular standard. Are we offering things that matter to our students? That's the key here. And so it has to be faculty. You have to have faculty status to serve as a program coordinator. Okay. Now, we get this question all the time. What roles can administrative staff or other faculty do? Again, like I said before, as program coordinators, we do not expect you to do it all. You can have help from administrative staff. You can have help, and we encourage help from other faculty. Okay. But you can't tell an administrative staff individual, you just take care of everything. Just do it, please. You can't do that because they're not faculty, right? It is a faculty responsibility to ensure the quality of our educational programs. So you can actually, as program coordinator, we certainly encourage you to delegate duties to other faculty or other individuals as is appropriate. But at the end of the day, you are that one person who is responsible for making sure that that gets done. You're the one person who's responsible for making sure that faculty come together and discuss about things within your program. And we'll talk about more of that in just a moment. So you can't just, take those responsibilities and give to somebody else and hope that it gets done. We have had people call us in the past and say, well, so-and-so is perfectly capable of being the program coordinator because they actually have a degree in the field. Fair enough, but they're not faculty. They don't have any responsibility for that particular role. You may have somebody that's holding a staff position in your unit that may have an advanced degree in the field and would otherwise be qualified, but they don't have the responsibilities of faculty. And so I want to just point that out here and make it clear that this really is faculty centric. You may add to that. If I will go back one, I will go back.
So sometimes it's like other roles being delegated. That happens with like the assessment report, the annual assessment report. Again, we do ask that y'all still are knowledgeable about that process, even if one person from your school completes those reports for multiple programs. You're still expected to know what's happening with the assessment. Also, from our office, when we reach out about program coordinator responsibilities like assessment, we typically go directly to the program coordinator. So even if you have delegated those duties to other people, you're still our first contact point because that's who we have listed to cover those responsibilities.
And this is why I have other people with me today, to remind me of all these good things. No, that's a very good point, Claire. So again, other people can help you and work with these, but we do expect that you be knowledgeable about your program. All right. So what are the program coordinator responsibilities? I will tell you that I have had people call me and complain about all of the responsibilities that they have. And I will just say to you all that from a SACS perspective, the number of responsibilities is actually quite minimal. That does not mean you don't have additional responsibilities, as you can see there at the bottom, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But the minimum things that I care about are the top three things that you see there, number 1, 2, and 3. These are the things that we have to show SACS COC at a minimum that we are having program coordinators do. We expect program coordinators to monitor the academic quality of the programs within their purview. We do not expect you to ensure solely the quality of your program. We expect you to monitor that quality. We expect you to coordinate the assessment of programs within your purview. Just like Claire was saying, you may have other people collecting data for you as part of your assessment, right? But you're going to coordinate that, make sure that it gets in on time. One of the things that we find, especially if you have adjuncts that are teaching critical courses, adjuncts come and adjuncts go. And so it's very important that you coordinate with them to ensure that you get the information that you need. So that would be a responsibility of a program coordinator. And then working with stakeholders to maintain curricular relevance. What do I mean by stakeholders? I mean your fellow faculty. I mean administration. I mean the community that you serve. I mean the students. And it depends on the program. Some programs have other accrediting bodies. That would include them as well, right? And so you have to sit and think about who are the stakeholders in this program, and you need to work with them as appropriate to maintain that curricular relevance. One of the things that we know today, right, more so than when I was in college, things are changing extremely quickly. And students in 4 years, we bring a student in and in 4 years they leave and that program's already started to change. Those expectations in the workforce, et cetera, have started to change. And so we need to keep up with that, and that's how we do that. These are the things that I truly care about. Now, the graduate school, for those of you who are graduate program coordinators, they've added 3 other things, right? So they want program coordinators to actually serve as chair the graduate admissions committees. That is not a SACS requirement. That is a USM graduate school requirement. Serve as faculty liaisons to the graduate school. Again, that is not a SACS requirement. That is a USM process requirement. And then understand and report program milestones. So what I will say is if you ever have any questions about these four, I would highly recommend you reach out to the graduate school for questions and on that, because these are not SAC COC related items. And then fulfill any other duties as assigned by the school. We get program coordinator approval forms that come in that just have, for an undergraduate program, we'll just have these three. You all sign off on it. We're happy. That's perfectly fine. We have some program coordinator forms, Mike can attest to this, that will come in, they'll have those three, and then there's 7 or 8 more below that. That's up to you, your program needs, and conversations with your school director. Okay, so anything past these requirements, that's all at the school level. So if you feel like, my goodness, the number of things that I'm coordinating is a lot, I would probably agree with you. Just, you need to work with your school director to determine what those actual additional duties may need to be. But I just want everybody to know that institutional effectiveness did not dictate additional duties. Okay, so that is not the role that we play. But we know of some of the program coordinators that actually have duties in terms of, we see some things in keeping track of inventory of things and going to Black and Gold Day and a number of other things. And those things are great. And if you're willing to do them, that's fine. But that is not a SAC COC requirement. I just want everybody to understand that. And then when we send out these slides, right, Claire, I think we've got a link up here to our academic program coordinator policy. So if you have not looked through that, I highly recommend you go ahead and read through that. We do have a policy on academic program coordinator or coordination. And it will explain what that role is. From a policy perspective. Okay. A couple of things that we put in that policy that I think are worth mentioning. And again, this is because we want to make sure that you all get credit, quote unquote, whatever credit means for your unit, for the duties you do as a program coordinator, because we understand they're first and foremost, they're very important duties. And B, they can be quite significant in terms of your time, okay? So program coordinator responsibilities as part of our policy must be part of your expected duties. This can't be just a bolt-on in your spare time. If you are a program coordinator, it needs to be something that the unit expects you to do and do well, okay? And as such, we do expect that your performance as a program coordinator is a component of your annual evaluation. And JB, did you want to say anything about workflow with that?
Yeah, and I can just add real quick on that note. So real quick on what Dr. Masterson was mentioning, the program coordinator performance is supposed to be a part of your annual evaluation. In the past, that has not been documented in faculty success workflow, but I believe in the coming year and then going forward, that will be a part of your workflow submission. So just be prepared and know of that and that is coming.
Thank you, JB.
So can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
So that's not really tied to a contract. Part of our, it's a task that we're taking on. It's not something we're paid for. Like how do you get evaluated on that?
When I did it, it was part of my service.
Okay, so
I mean, we all have, as faculty, we all have expectations of, well, depending on the role of faculty, but for a tenure track faculty like myself, it's teaching, research, and service, right? And so for teaching track, it's teaching and service. And so it just counted as part of my service commitment.
okay, so that's where that's going to pop into on the workflow.
Well, we haven't built that out yet, but
We haven't built that out quite yet, but more than likely, it'll be attached and connected to the annual evaluation submission, but it'll be its own independent section. So then it'll be up to your school on whether or not they want to connect that to your ratings on service or teaching or whatever the school would like to do. But the workflow form itself, we'll just have that as an independent section for you to fill out.
so how do we fulfill our responsibilities for the institutional effectiveness component of this? One of the things that I always tell program coordinators is we want you to communicate regularly with faculty in your school. In my opinion, you should have a portion of a school meeting devoted to a conversation with your fellow faculty or your undergraduate committee or however you have your structure set up. But what we really need you to do as you go throughout the year, we need you to talk about enrollment trends in your programs. We need you to talk about retention. We need you to think about graduation, student performance and select coursework, how you recruit. All of those types of things are going to be important for your program, and program coordinators should be a part of that. We also encourage you all to talk to your undergraduate and graduate council representatives. So one of the things that I always tell those people who serve on council is we expect those council members to go back to their school and talk about things that are coming up through the councils. What other programs are coming up? Be a competition for your students, right? I mean, let's just be honest about that one. What other kinds of policies are coming up that you might need to be aware of? What kind of changes to the GEC? What kind of changes to graduate programming? What kind of whatever, right? So we want you to spend some time talking with your undergraduate and graduate council representatives. It is one of the reasons why we moved undergraduate and graduate council to a membership where if you're in a school that has an undergraduate program, you get one representative. If you're in a school that has a graduate program, you get one representative. And so that was there so that we can ensure as best we can that there was going to be communication from the councils to the schools. And with that, I will turn it over to Claire.
So I will pick up talking about the annual assessment report that ties to that number 2 of your responsibilities. So it's expected from our office that you all complete an assessment report just once a year. Sometimes you'll hear this referred to as our Weave report. Weave is just the software we use to complete those reports, so that's where that name comes from. As part of that assessment report, you are expected to keep up with some data to stay data informed, and then also to complete the task of talking with other faculty in your school. So some of those data sources include Helio Campus, program review data, and then curricular analytics. So for the program assessment portion, why do we have program assessment? So your responsibilities 1 through 3, which IE cares about, for SACS at least, you can provide evidence that you complete these responsibilities through that annual assessment report. So as we're adding that into faculty success this coming year for those annual evaluations, you can always pull the report that you've submitted and attach that as evidence. So in the future, if you ever need that, email me, I can download that for you and you can attach that. Another reason we have to assess is because we're required to by SACS COC. So standard 8.2, the institution is required to identify expected student learning outcomes, assess the extent to which it achieves these outcomes, and then provide evidence of seeking improvement based on that analysis for all of our general education, and then also all our programs. And really the key aspect here is the seeking improvement. This is an area that trips people up a lot. Everyone always wants to meet their goals and get like a green always. But that's really not the intent of this, is to show that we're seeking improvement and that we're making our programs better and improving our student learning overall. Some additional rationale, again, from the SACS COC manual, is that we do assessment to enhance student learning and to support student learning outcomes. We're seeking to make our programs even better. And then we use that assessment report to inform decisions about curricular and programmatic revisions and things like that. So again, tying that in as that evidence of our curricular oversight. Going to go into briefly, what is this assessment report? What's required? These are the components that make a complete assessment report. I'm not going to go into too much detail because we'd be here another hour, but we will have another session about specifically what each component of the assessment report is, how you complete it. Something to note is you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single year. You're not expected to do this from scratch every single year. So our Weave platform has has these projects in it that roll over. So each year I go in there and duplicate the project from the previous year, so it keeps some of that information for you. So that includes your program description, that includes your student learning outcomes, so what you expect students to know, think, or do when they finish your program, the measures you've used for that, so what assignments you're using to measure those outcomes, and then your targets or your goals. What percentage of students do you expect to meet such a high level of achievement? The things you will actually have to put in are the findings or your data. You'll have to say whether the students met your goal, so met or not met. Then you'll also have to complete this analysis and action plan document. And this is kind of the bulk of the work that comes in. So we want you to provide an analysis of the data. So what did students do well on? What could be improved? Have some action plans. So using that to make informed decisions. What are y'all going to do as a result of the data that you collected? If you found areas for improvement, how are you going to do that specifically? And then we also ask that you complete a program review data section, which includes enrollment and graduation, and then a brief analysis narrative on that as well. And then every year we ask that you attach any evidence that helps support that whole report. So if you use rubrics to review your students, that you upload those as well. All of this information as far as what's required, what each specific component means, that can be found on our website here. So institutional effectiveness, under assessment, and then academic assessment. You can find all the instructions. We have rubrics even to compare your report to see if you've completed it, and things like that. So moving into that data informed section and data for the WEAVE report. So with the WEAVE report, you will have student data that you collect from your classes, or you'll reach out to other faculty and ask for data. You'll also be asked to complete that enrollment and graduation data, and that comes from this program review dashboard. This can be accessed through institutional research. So not effectiveness research, it's their cousins. So their website you can access through what we call the internal site. And so this is available to all faculty and staff with a USN login. You don't have to get registered, you don't have to email anybody, you can access this at any time. Once you get in, you can go to this program review dashboard, and this is kind of a snapshot of what it looks like. So here you will see there's a list of all programs. You can filter it to by college, school. You'll see that it lists the your enrollment for the fall of the year. So this is only fall, like 2022. It's not full academic year. You'll have the degrees awarded for that academic year. And then you'll have this graduated last 3 years, reported 1 year ago, reported 2 years ago. So this is an aggregate graduation number. So this is the last 3 academic years. This is the number of graduates you have. The reason this dashboard is set up like this is because it matches what we report to IHL. And so this is why we ask you to grab these numbers for the graduation rates, and then also the enrollment, because that matches our reporting. Did you want to say something?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I just want to say a couple of other things about this particular dashboard that I think are worth pointing out here, and we can certainly talk about it more later. But as Claire said, you know, we have the enrollment number, but you'll see that that's broken up into primary and secondary enrollments. From an institutional effectiveness point of view, we give you complete credit, whether it's their primary major or a secondary major. So we're talking about, you know, double majors here, right? So it's not your fault that they selected another major before they happened to select your major as the second major. So we give you complete credit for all of that enrollment, whether they're a primary major or secondary major, but we do have to break it out like this. And then this part on the reported 3 years, you know, over the 3-year time frame, this is how we can predict with high precision whether or not a program is going to be on IHL stipulation. We know, we can see that trend coming, and we can do that because of this dashboard. And we really want you to be in that dashboard and look at your trends in a way that you can get ahead of that problem, because we really do want to get our IHL stipulations down to 0. And we've made a lot of strides over the last several years, and in part because program coordinators and others have been paying attention to their enrollments and have improved the recruitment or their programmatic delivery in a way that has turned some of that around.
So picking back up, for the weave report, you will just copy and paste these numbers and these numbers together. You can add them for that analysis document. You don't have to do any calculations other than adding these two numbers together. And the headings will match. So that'll be just a copy paste situation. Some notes here, like we mentioned, you can add primary and secondary together. Primary is that first major, secondary is second. If you have a certificate, it'll always show up in the secondary column typically, because most students are having a degree they're pursuing in addition to a certificate. Certificate's never going to be a primary unless a student is only here for that certificate. You might, if you see a certificate on here, say, oh, it has 0 enrollments, but there's some graduation numbers. Some students wait till their last semester to declare that they're taking that certificate, so it doesn't appear here because they technically hadn't applied for the certificate yet. But you do see the graduation numbers. Minors are not included here. So for the weave report, certificate and minor data reporting will look a little different, but that's something we'll address in the future in a different session. Also, if you're looking for a program and you're like, I do not see mine over here, or you are program coordinating for a program that had a name change or something like that, that's technically considered an inactive program now. So it automatically filters out to only active programs. So there's a filter on the side, you just have to add that back in. With that, in the weave report, you can report numbers for your current program, and then if you had a name change last year, that old name, those numbers as well. Again, that was a lot of information and kind of detailed, but we'll go over that again closer to the weave report being due. If you're wondering how to access this information, it's included on the analysis document itself. And then I'm also going to prepare a document to attach to our website that just explains how step-by-step to get to this dashboard and look at it. Another final note is that this dashboard gets updated once a year, and it happens towards the end of the fall semester. The reason is because November 1st is US Census date. That's the day we take a screenshot of our enrollment and send it to IHL. So that's why these numbers will then change after that date. So again, late fall, early July, this dashboard will be updated for the coming year. It'll be 25 enrollment.
I got a question on this, because I got a weird problem. So, like, my program's got, I don't know, 140 students in it. But there's another program that's online at BAS. And I think about half the classes in there are taught with the resources for my program. And so those are classes and those students aren't accounted for in all these numbers.
No, there's a difference between class enrollments and program enrollments. And so if you wanted to get into class demand or class numbers, then you have to look at it from a class perspective. But we're dealing only with the program numbers here.
This data literacy program just talks about all the data that we have available, both through that faculty and staff, like internal site that's available to everyone. That's what we focus on. And then a little bit of that Helio Campus, what you can submit a data request for, everything that's available to you, and then a bit about how to actually use that data. So it goes a bit into data visualizations, data storytelling. If you're interested in that, there is a contact form on their website, or you can also email them. And again, there'll be a faculty cohort in spring 26. I help with that, so if you sign up, I'll see you there too. And I'll turn it over to JP.
So hey again, everyone. Just wanted to share briefly a little bit about curricular analytics. This is one of the projects in our office that I manage, and I think that it could potentially be very useful for you in your role as a program coordinator. So curricular analytics is a data visualization of the path to a degree for a specific degree program. So here is just an example on the screen. This is Hospitality and Tourism Management, VSBA, and you see each course is represented by a cell in a box here, and then the lines that connect each of these individual courses to one another represent prerequisites. And then if you see lines that are just up and down, those are co-requisites, mainly for labs and stuff like that. But curricular analytics gives you a lot of good insight, not only for the complexity of the overall degree program. So when we say complexity, that's not referring to the rigor of the program necessarily, but more how do all the courses interact. And it's just looking at and quantifying those prerequisite co-requisites, and then giving us a number for that complexity. But again, it's not only for the degree program. You can also get a complexity score for individual courses. So if you're interested in redoing your degree plan or even making some small slight adjustments, the curricular analytics visualization can give you some really good ideas of where to start and which courses may be problematic. So beyond just complexity, this will also show per course the blocking factor and the centrality score of each individual course within your degree program. So the blocking factor is going to note how many courses follow one course, meaning how many courses is our one course a prerequisite for, and then that centrality is going to look at how many courses come before and how many courses come after that are attached to that one course. So it gives us a good idea of which courses are the most important in a student's path to a degree. And for example, if you take one of the courses that has a very high complexity and a very high blocking factor, and you do not pass it in the semester that you've taken it, we then know that that is going to set you back a semester or two, and is going to take, it is going to require additional work for that student, and is going to make completing the degree a lot more challenging. So another thing that we can do within curricular analytics is we can add notes to each of the courses. So for example, you wanted to take the top 3 or 5 complex courses on your curricular analytics sheet, and then we can add like the DFW rates for those courses. So then you would know these are my top 5 most complex courses, and really the most important classes for my students to pass. And then you can look at those DFW rates to see the success of those courses, and that can give you a good idea of which ones may need a little work. So if you want access to this, by default, we give the school directors access, but you are more than welcome as a program coordinator to reach out to me and get access to this. We don't have a limited number of licenses or anything like that. So you can just shoot me an email. I believe we have it on the screen here, and I can give you access. But I'll just say real quick, before you email, you'll have to go to curricularanalytics.org. You'll have to create an account first. And then once you create an account, I can add you to our organization. So just be sure to make an account with your USM email address. Then just shoot me a quick email and I will get you added. And then additionally, I can give you some resources and help explain and walk you through what all the numbers mean and what the lines mean. I've tried my best to kind of summarize it, but it is rather complex in some ways. So I just wanted to share this resource. And again, as we have noted here on the screen, the bulletin years of 2021 to 2024, those are all available in the system now. So you can even see year to year if you know that you've had some changes. And then the 2025, so the current academic year, those are not quite available, but we plan to have those ready for you in the system by the end of the semester. So yeah, this is a great resource for program coordinators to evaluate the complexity of your program and maybe identify some classes that maybe need some adjustments, whether that be removing a prerequisite or maybe even looking at the content of that course to try to help students as best you can succeed in that class and pass it so they can move on and ultimately complete the degree. And then lastly, I just wanted to note that faculty success data is also available upon request to all of you. So if there are things like grade distributions or even information on the faculty within your program, if any of that information would be useful to you, feel free to reach out to me and I can probably provide most of what you would request for the program level, the school level, whatever might be most useful to you. So with that, I think I'm going to hand it back to Claire.
Let me just say one real quick thing about curricular analytics, and that is this is a free resource for us. It doesn't cost us anything to have access to this platform, so it's just our time getting stuff in there. So there's a cost to that, obviously, but go in, take a look at it. You can also look up other programs at other institutions. So other institutions use this as well, and so you can compare your complexity to others. And I'll just say, I'll pick on my own program. A couple of years ago, we looked at this and we decided, you know what, if our map, if you will, looks like the Tokyo subway station map, we're probably too complex. And we went through and started looking at other programs across the nation and realized that our complexity was astronomical. And so we started to have conversations about why is that a prereq to that course? And sometimes we said, no, you got to know that stuff before that. And others, it was like, I have no idea why that's a prereq. It just always has been. And we started to whittle away at some of those unnecessary prereqs in a way that I think made for a cleaner path to success for our students. Did I see a hand raised? Julie.
So as I'm understanding, like this has already been done for all of our programs, right?
Yeah, in the 2021 to 2024, it's all completed.
For undergraduate
We're
programs.
currently working on this year's. And yes, this is only undergraduate programs.
And it's kind of like the other data where like all program coordinators are getting it automatically. Is there some possible way? Like, why not send it to everybody?
So unfortunately, the way the system is set up, I can't give you access until you have an account. So unfortunately, you'll have to go to curricularanalytics.org. You'll have to create an account, and then that's the point that I can give you access and share this with you. Yes.
If we do have an account, then can we just, of our own initiative, just start looking for it? Or like, if we have an account, then you have to sort of direct us to like, here's your information.
Yeah, so once you have an account, you'll have access to everything. Now you may have questions on what button do I click, how do I get to, how do I search for my program? But once we've given you access and added you to our group, our organization within the system, you'll have access to all of that.
Okay, so it's only like if I need help finding my stuff.
Yes, mainly, yes.
And so right now, it's only undergrad. Can we get access to master's level stuff or not?
We certainly can, but that has just been an internal conversation we've had about how useful that would be.
It would be hugely useful for our accreditation.
Mhm.
Well, we would love to talk with you more about that, because part of the reason we made the decision to do that is when you look at many of our graduate programs, they are whatever your advisor tells you to do.
There are lots of elective.
And so there's nothing really for us to program. But if yours
We
is,
have like a set of required classes.
yeah, we can work with that, but we just made a decision, because, our undergraduate programs are pretty
Sure.
much so, requiremented, if you will, in a way that we can do this, but our
Okay.
graduate programs in general are not that friendly for this.
Okay, all right.
But we'd be
Ours-
happy to work
Ours
with
may be the exception, so.
Yours may be the exception, we'd be happy
Let's
to
see
work
if
with
we
them.
can,
Yeah,
make that work.
absolutely.
Dr. Reed?
As you know, I love this commercial analytics stuff. That wasn't sarcastic, by the way. Since you've done them all, I presume you know which programs are like
Yes, and
straight away and which ones aren't.
there's a dashboard that you can sort by the most complex programs. You can see in any given year the
Okay,
Southern
I-
who is the most complex.
We can talk later, but I'm like, sometimes I don't have time to look at everything that I know would be valuable. So if someone just proactively said, hey, you're in the top 20th percentile, you're getting active notice, you might wanna take a look at your curricular analytics.
Yeah, and those percentiles are also in the system, so by zip code, it'll look at nationally, based on the zip code, how complex is yours, what percentile are you in? And it'll also give you a quick score on, comparing all the Southern Miss programs we have in the system. So it's a
I'm
great
talking
thing.
about active notification of us.
Yeah, that currently, we don't have a system for that, but potentially can
Just
do.
throwing it
Yeah.
out there.
And appreciate that, for sure.
I can tell you what, for interest of time,
Yes.
I'm hearing a lot of interest in this. How about we plan on a session for curricular analytics? We could definitely
certainly
do
just talk
something
a
like
whole
that.
hour about curricular
Yeah, because we
analytics.
can talk forever on curricular analytics. Yeah, so
Yeah,
we'd be happy to do
one
it.
quick last note on curricular analytics, kind of unlike Video Campus and some other data systems, this is very customizable. So if you wanted to, for example, come up with a couple of curricular changes within your degree plan, and then you wanted to see the chart, what it would look like, I can certainly create that for you and let you look at them, comparing the two.
And I also just really quickly want people to understand that complexity is not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
So I don't want you to think that, oh, how do we get it to zero? You're not gonna get it to zero, okay? It's about a way to trigger a conversation about requirements in a way that I think is fruitful. And just to let you know, you cannot compare the complexity across disciplines. Okay, the complexity in a foreign language program, you can really only compare to other foreign language programs. You can't compare that to a chemistry program or a math program or an English program or forensics program. You're gonna have to be looking at apples to apples.
But this also should be something that maybe the directors are, if they're, need a, workshop.
We can do that.
Because as we're looking at course efficiencies and course rotations and
Yep.
whatnot, there are probably things that need to be addressed.
Absolutely. And what we'll do is we'll get back this afternoon and we'll talk about maybe adding something else to our plate this year. So happy to do that. Oh, it's me. Okay, it's me. It's okay. So what should program coordinators do throughout the year? Sounds like maybe some of you are gonna start doing some curricular analytics stuff. So we definitely want you throughout the year at various points. We encourage you all to request time during your school meetings to talk about your programs, or however you have your structure set up. But take some time discussing what you're seeing in the program. Again, the enrollments, the retention, the graduation, student performance, right? It's not all about enrollment. I mean, I did say that, okay? I mean, but we do ultimately, we do want them to eventually graduate. We want to have successful students go out and be productive. And yes, you gotta have enrollment to do that. But at the end of the day, we do want people that are gonna go out and be golden eagles and be successful in whatever career path they take. You're gonna need to be making decisions and taking actions. It's that taking actions part that's, I think, sometimes in the assessments, we're not really quite seeing what we would like to see. That does not mean you have to throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? I mean, it could be a small little change that might have a big impact. It could be, we're recognizing after we looked at curricular analytics, there's this one course that has 4 other courses feeding into it, and 2 of those courses have a high DFW rate. That's why our students are taking 5 and 6 years to graduate. Now you know something, now what are you gonna do about that, right? Are you gonna improve the instruction in those courses because you absolutely have to have a prereq there, or are you gonna have that conversation about, why do we have that prereq there? Maybe we can have those conversations. And again, it's gonna be dependent on your context. Weed data, that's you.
So then something else we expect throughout the year is that you prepare for that week report. It's important that you work on gathering data throughout the year. Again, like we mentioned earlier, sometimes adjuncts teach courses. So if you know you're gonna need data from like a fall course where an adjunct teaches it, it's best to go ahead and reach out this semester and tell them that you're gonna need that data. And then reach out again at the end of the semester and say, hey, can I go ahead and get that? Again, it's just important to communicate with other faculty in your discipline so they have a heads up that that's gonna be needed. That is something we see sometimes with assessment reports. It's, by the time we reached out in May, somebody had left the school, so we're not able to get that data. So again, it's important to go ahead and start reaching out, talking about these things now and give people a heads up. With that, how do you know what data you need? Go ahead, if you're new, and look at your current assessment plan. I have to give access to Weave, so you do not automatically have access to it. If you're new and you want to look at that, just reach out to me. The reason I say this is because to get into Weave for the first time, you have to follow an invitation email, and that invitation email expires after 24 hours. So if I went ahead and sent it to you today, if you don't access it by the end of the workday, we'll just have to go through that whole process again. So just whenever you're ready, just email me and let me know that you would like to have access to that. If not, when it gets closer to May, I'll go ahead and batch email everybody and say, hey, here's access, just so you know.
I have a chat question.
Okay.
It says they're inquiring about would it help to have week reports due at the end of September rather than near the beginning of September, especially since early September is right next to the beginning of the fall semester.
So something I was gonna touch on is that our week reports are due September of 26 for that academic year. So 25, 26, fall and spring. They're due usually at the beginning of September. That does not mean you have to wait to complete them. I will duplicate those projects earlier in the semester. I've had goals before to do it in the fall. This year, because of SACS reporting and cleaning some things up, it'll probably be early spring. But I will email everybody and let you know, hey, your project is ready there. So I typically do that pretty early in the spring, definitely by March. So you can, if you have the data, if you're not using summer data, you can complete that. If you have all your data, you want to do analysis, you can do that before you leave for the summer. That's fine. We don't penalize for doing it early as long as you have everything there. So you can do that at your leisure up until that due date when we ask for you to have it in. Some other concerns there is we do expect you to complete that week report for your tenure as program coordinator for this year. So sometimes people swap out program coordinator with a new academic year, and that program coordinator alignment doesn't match up, or we ask for new program coordinators in September. We still want you to complete that week report before you swap over to a new program coordinator. You're the one with the expertise from this past year, all that data you know about. We've also had situations too where it's like a new person to the institution who's been employed for 2 weeks and they're handed this week report for last academic year and they go, what is this? So we ask that you're courteous to your other faculty and just go ahead and finish that out. Again, you can do it early. You can do it in the summer, even though you might not want to because you're on contract. We'll be here. So if you have a question, you can always email me in the summer. I will answer it. Some other things to look at throughout the rest of the year. We have a new program coordination website that went live about 3 weeks ago. We built this just to have one spot for all the resources. We get questions sometime about responsibilities, about I want to change program coordinator, how do I do that? So we just built out a place for all that to live. It links out to the different academic program coordinator policies, other things like that. And then at the end, we have this new resources area. So we used to put all these different things in different spots. So now anything that's related specifically to program coordination, we'll just put it here. So this session, once we're done, we'll upload the slides and the recording here. You can see our past couple years slides. I'll always put the date, what kind of media it is. I've broken up some resources by responsibilities. So for curricular oversight, we have a link to curricular analytics now, and we'll be adding some things here over time. Same with if you need to make a change to your program, curriculum, this goes to our webpage for that. If you're looking to make a new program development, what that looks like, and then that program review data, I'll put instructions for how to get that as well. And then coordinating assessment, this links to our academic assessment webpage, and I'll upload some additional tips for that as well. Looking forward to the rest of the year too, we'll have some additional sessions coming up. We will be adding a curricular analytics now, that we've been informed. On Halloween, we'll have a new zip code and faculty qualification session. We've never done this session before, but we've gotten a lot of questions over the past weeks, months about zip codes and then the faculty qualifications, how zip codes play into that. Part of that from me being involved in data literacy, hearing those questions. So we decided to post a session about that. It'll be the same time, same place, and you can sign up for the CFD again. And then in the spring, I'll be going in detail about those assessment report requirements. So it's fresh on your mind, how to log in, how to navigate the software, because that's half the battle, and then how to actually input that data and everything correctly. So we have finished. We're going to open the floor to questions, but before we do that, we are going to do our door prize drawing. Did you want to add something too?
Real quick, on our website, I'm obligated to plug our social media, so if you go to look at all of the beautiful resources Claire's put together, you'll also see links to all of our social media platforms if you would like to follow us there.
Please follow us. You know, institutional effectiveness is not one of those things that people want to follow.
And then if we haven't covered something you're interested in, shoot us an email and let us know. One of the reasons we did this session is because we got a couple emails like, hey, are you doing a new program coordinator session again? And we're like, oh yeah, we should probably do that. So that prompted us to have this. So you can always email us and let us know what you're interested in hearing about.
For the tips that you're gonna put up, you might wanna solicit from the group as well. So things like when I came in, the faculty didn't even know what assignments were tied to the youth assessment. And the previous person had just been looking at overall course grades, and it had been like 3 semesters since that assignment even existed and stuff like that. So, you know, little tips like you don't even think about that faculty go in and start messing around with assignments and change things, which that's fine, but it has to be done with planning. And so those kind of tips that as this role you might not think of, you might want to also ask the group for, hey, what should new coordinators know?
Suggestion. Y'all will be receiving then a survey link from me.
Excellent idea, thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes, yes. I hope everyone was able to get their names into our drawing for our little happies. Come on now.
Question for the.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
So far, we have been doing only one report for the whole major. The effective this semester is going to be 3 distinct programs and 3 distinct measures. How do I split the data? For example, the capstone courses are covered by everybody, all 3 major students. So I split it like, okay, here you go, the forensic biology. If there are 10 students in the class in the capstone, take the 10 students' data alone and put it into the forensic biology.
Absolutely.
If there are 10 in forensic chemistry, take their data and put it into the other one. So split based on.
You really need to, and the reason when you think about it, if you throw everybody into a big pot, and let's say your target is 85% of students will do X, and 85% of students do X, and you go, okay, that's great. But until you can break it down a little further, it may be the forensic chemistry students didn't do, I mean, they did poorly, right? So, but you would have said, oh, everybody's doing great, right? But you may have other things in those other particular programs. So you really do need to get a little granular when we're talking about student achievement and student outcomes.
And with that, that's such a specific question. I recommend that you reach out to me and Catherine. We can meet with you one-on-one to get those developed. Because I know they went through a lot of changes this past year. And that's kind of a big question. So I think that'll be like a whole nother meeting of just discussing how that's going to look assessment.
Catherine said there is going to be 3 templates for each major. So I have to split the data into biology, chemistry, and CSI.
Yep, you'll have to keep track of that. And you know, there's ways of doing that in Canvas and other things in a way that'll make it easier for you, I think. So we can brainstorm on ideas.
Okay.
Before we get any more questions, mindful of everyone's time, I'm going to go ahead and do the drawings.
Yes, just because I know some of you have places to be and things to do. Let's go ahead and knock out this drawing. I have 3 giveaways that I want to do. I hope everyone was able to get their names in here. We will do the shaking.
Punch through.
All right.
There we go.
All
He
right.
built this, and I was like, how are you gonna get him out? He said, I'm gonna punch through.
Just punch through it. All right, first up is Chris Sorolla. I believe he's joining us online.
Okay, well, congratulations, Chris.
All right, next up, we have Sarah Mangrum.
Oh, there we go.
Right.
Look, I'm coming, like
Come on, Dad.
All right. And our final winner. I have Kim Smith.
Oh, hey, great. Congratulations.
Thanks everybody for participating.
Yeah. And again, we're gonna stick around for a while. If you all have any additional questions you wanna ask, happy to talk with you all. Thank you all for attending.